Good morning or good afternoon, whenever you're listening to our podcast. This is Susan Martin from Bauer Center for the Arts, and you're listening to Behind the Bauer. Our show offers inspiring conversations, a fresh look at arts in our community, and provides spotlights on artists, performers, collaborative partners, educators, and organizations. We want to celebrate the universal expression of human experiences through arts, culture, and our community. And today we're talking with Americana folk and blues singer-songwriter David Starr. David's known for his soulful vocals, his honest storytelling, and has a career spanning over a decade where he's released numerous albums, toured internationally, and shared stages with artists like John Oates and Jim Messina. So welcome, David. Thanks for joining me.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I'm so excited. So just to let our listeners know, David is no stranger to the Bauer Center. He has performed with us a couple of times in the past, and we're very excited, David, to have you coming back this weekend to be a part of our annual fundraising event, The Art of Pairing. So welcome.
Well, thank you. Thank you. I'm excited to come back. You know, I'm pretty steeped in this arts center stuff out here where I live. My wife and I helped get an arts center started here. So when I was able to play your place for the first time, I immediately fell in love with the area and specifically with with the Bauer Center. So can't wait to come back.
Well, thank you. So let's just start by tell our listeners a little bit about yourself, where your love of music comes from, and we'll go from there.
Okay. Well, a little bit of a clarification on that intro. I've actually been at this. The decade thing is a little off. I've actually been at this since I was about 10. So that's well over 50 years. But I've been playing since I was a little kid. I started out as a drummer and then became the singer in the band that I was in as a kid because I owned a microphone. Sometimes by default you just become what you need to become. But and then grew up playing in bar bands and playing at parties and high schools and fraternities and all that sort of thing. And as time went on, I taught myself guitar just from being around some good players. And since I was a singer, I wanted to be able to accompany myself. And I'd say in the last 15 years, I've worked really hard at kind of carving out a solo career because it's just easier to travel without a full band. My love of music came from, like a lot of people my age, I was a little kid, but I saw the Beatles on Ed Sullivan one night, and I went, I want that,
Mm-hmm.
whatever that energy and that audience response is. And of course, none of us are the Beatles except for the Beatles, but it's a great way to, it's a great form of self-expression. I love writing songs. I love telling the stories behind the songs, and in the last several years, I've been able to tour some with my friend Eric Stuckey, who is from this part of Colorado out here in the western part of the state, but now lives in Nashville. So he'll be with me when I come to Bedford this weekend.
Awesome.
So we're excited to be there again. Yeah.
Yeah. So you mentioned your music drawing on your self-expression and storytelling, personal experiences. How do you choose which stories you want to tell through your music or through your songs?
Well, there's a number of ways that songs kind of show up, and sometimes I'll hear a word or I'll hear a phrase or I'll see something and I go, okay, what could I do with that? And sometimes, and I've heard other songwriters talk about this, and it's kind of magic and kind of mystical, but sometimes the song tells you what it needs to be about.
Mm-hmm.
That's one way of going about it. Another is, and I've talked about this a few years back. I had read one of my grandfather's books. He wrote books before he died in the early 70s, and I took one of his books, his final novel, and gave that novel to my friend John Oates and a number of other songwriters. We all read the book and then contributed stories inspired by the book. So sometimes you take other source material and come up with songs. So they can come from really anywhere. I think one of the things I've learned is just to be open to that muse or inspiration or
Mm-hmm.
whatever it is. I've written a couple of songs. I've written a couple of songs I like a lot, just from people at the coffee shop next door, where I heard somebody say something and go, that was an interesting phrase. So you take that and you take it where it takes you,
Right.
and so it's magic. I don't know how else to put it. For me, it is anyway.
Yeah, yeah. What do you think? I know that you have a really deep connection with the Americana and folk music. What do you think makes this genre resonate with listeners today?
Well, I think I think people have a lot of stuff coming at them these days,
Hmm.
and some of it's good, a lot of it's not good. I think if people can get a good, I don't know. One of the things I always ask at shows when it's quiet enough and we have the opportunity is to say, "Would you like to hear how this song came about?" And people are always interested in that backstory and that inspiration for the song. And it's I don't know. I think it's a way to get in touch with the story behind the song and with the song in a way that you don't get in an arena with 20,000 people. Although Springsteen seems to pull it off just fine.
Right.
Um, but people, I think music. I look at what's going on in the country, and we're kind of messed up right now in a lot of ways. But in other ways, when we come together with music, it seems to bridge all those gaps just fine. And I really like that about music in general.
Right, right. Tell our listeners a little bit. I know that you have a guitar store, I believe, and a guitar
Uh-huh.
collection. Tell other
Hmm.
listeners a little bit about that.
Well, I was in the mid '90s. I was kind of at a where a lot of people find themselves at a career crossroads. I'd done a lot of things and been in a lot of in many different kinds of career paths, and I sort of was at that spot of what am I going to do with myself? And I looked around and I thought, you've got this. And I was living in Little Rock, Arkansas, and I said, I have this collection of 40 or 50 instruments, and not all of them valuable, but most of them just really interesting to me. And I thought, well, what am I going to do with myself? And I thought, well, just you need a guitar store. So not really knowing much about them other than I'd been in them all my life, I opened a store, ran that for 3 years down there. And then since I'd been in Colorado earlier in my life, I wanted to come back out here. So I moved it out here kind of. People ask how I got to Cedar Edge, Colorado. Well, the wind kind of blew me here, and I opened this shop. And part of my mission here is just to make is for this shop to be sort of the musical hub of the area.
Hmm.
There's not another shop from within more than an hour to get to the next music store. So it's kind of an unlikely place for a store like this, and yet people find it, because
Right,
guitar people are a little bit like golf people, gun people, fishing people, antiquing people. They'll find you,
right.
and the internet's good for that. They'll go, hey, I saw you online. I wanted to find your store. So, you know, um, that's that's kind of where I am. And then, as I mentioned before, my wife and I helped get an arts center started
Hmm.
here. And when I come to a place like the Bauer Center, she won't be able to be with me this trip, but
Hmm.
we just look around and we just marvel at the way these smaller communities can use the arts as a catalyst for a lot of things,
Absolutely.
creativity mainly.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
it's cool.
Yeah, yeah. I was actually visiting the website last night for your Grand Mesa Arts and Events Center, which is such a neat space. With the being with the Bauer Center for the Arts, I really appreciate when communities take a space and turn it into something else. Tell a little bit about what you all did to create that center and a little bit more about your space.
Well, there's it's a small Main Street district, three or four blocks, and then we have some stuff on the highway. But like a lot of small towns, there are a lot of old buildings, and there was only one uh, that seemed big enough for something like that. It was really right across the street from my shop. And one day I was looking at it, and I thought, I wonder if we could turn that into something that would work for a performance space and a gallery space. So, like a lot of old buildings, it's sort of split down the middle. It used to have two entrances. So we got a bunch of people together. We huddled in a church basement and talked about it like it was a big secret that nobody'd even want to know about. And once we once we went public with it, we set up a nonprofit, leased the building, raised money to renovate it, So half of the building lengthwise is a performing arts space and a couple of teaching rooms and an office. And then the other side, we made into a performance space that seats about 160 people in folding chairs when we have shows, and we also do a lot of stuff with dance and yoga and whatnot. So
Mm-hmm.
the space gets a lot of, like your space, it gets used for a lot of things. I
Right,
suspect. But
right. Mm-hmm.
the other day we had a theater company from up in Creede, Colorado, which has a well-known repertory company. They came with 3 people. They have a touring company, and all the kids from the elementary school came down, or preschool came and sat in groups and watched this. And to me, that's the most rewarding thing, because those kids are going to go home and tell their parents, that's going to be the biggest thing that happened to them all day. And
Right.
it was really fun to watch.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
we're trying to impact a lot of people with some really good stuff here. That's the main goal.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Bauer Center has that same mission, and I'm
Yep.
the same as you are. Just when the kids come in, and they're just so wide-eyed and amazed that there's something there, this opportunity for them to be involved in and be a part of. We had something similar this weekend and collaborated with the local opera on the James, and they came in and did a performance for youth and families of Goldilocks and the Three Singing Bears, and it was so fun to watch
Oh, cool.
the kids, participate in that, and just get immersed not only in the Bauer Center but opera as well. So that was very, very fun, and I just feel like we have kind of a kinship because of that, and it's good to know that there are other communities out there that are doing something similar to ensure that the arts and culture are available to anybody.
Well, and I think it's imperative to the long term health of these small arts centers to bring kids and families in. That's the future. We've done all the heavy lifting to get this thing off the ground here, but I'm not going to be here forever, and neither's the board. So we've got to bring new faces in, new energy, and that sort of thing, and new ideas.
Yeah.
We're not the only ones that have ideas. So
Right.
so it's exciting to me, and I believe it's changed our community as yours probably has done for Bedford. So it's cool, and I feel a real kinship with you and with your place there, and I just can't wait to get there and play again.
Yeah.
Tell me about your event. Tell me about your event a little, so I'll know what to expect.
Yeah. So our event is our annual fundraiser called Art of Pairing. This year,
Uh-huh.
we're pairing bourbon and blues. The
Okay.
event is just an evening of experiencing locally highlighted and sourced food tastings. So we're working with a local farm here in Bedford that's going to be donating some of the brisket and also apple cider that's going to go in some of our beverages. And then we have a local chef that's going to be
Nice.
creating dishes that are going to highlight the locally sourced ingredients from Chapel Creek Farms. And we're real excited about that. And then in addition to that, guests will be able to do bourbon tastings, and we are only highlighting Virginia made bourbons for the tastings. And then included in the evening experience, obviously, is your music. And then we also have a
Uh-huh.
silent auction that's an additional fundraising component. And all of the pieces in the silent auction have been handcrafted or handmade. And so it's works of art. People have gotten really creative and repurposed and recreated bourbon barrels into other pieces of furniture or other works of art. And then I have a individual that has generously donated about 15 bottles of different types of bourbons from across the country, primarily more from the Kentucky area, that are kind of well known. And I'm not a bourbon drinker, but I understand that some of them are kind of hard to find or hard to get your hands on.
Uh-huh.
And those bottles will also be paired with the different works of art and recreated, repurposed pieces as a part of the silent auction. So it's just a fun evening
Very
for
cool.
folks to come out and just kind of enjoy the center. We have 2 great exhibits on the wall currently, so they'll be able to peruse those exhibits. And we're kind of doing a fun blues atmosphere in
Uh-huh.
the event center area. So, yeah, so it's just going to be a nice evening for individuals to enjoy each other, connecting, the arts, food, and music. So
Great. Well, I don't drink, so if you'll bring the bourbon, I'll bring the blues. How's
there you go.
that?
I appreciate that. Yeah, and for the non-drinking folks, we will have non-alcoholic beverages, and those that don't like bourbon, there will be some beer and wine available. So I know I have a lot of folks, and they're like, "Well, I really don't like bourbon," and I said, "Well, you don't have to drink the bourbon, but I think that you'll enjoy all the other aspects of the evening. So be sure to come on out." Tell our listeners, because I know that you've had one of your most recent projects has been related to creating blues, I believe blues rock music. Tell our listeners a little bit about
Uh-huh.
that latest project and maybe what they can expect to hear this weekend.
Well, that project hasn't been released yet. It won't come out until April. It's finished. It's been finished for almost a year, but a little pre tease announcement kind of thing. That's actually going to be on a real record label this time instead of me just releasing it on my own behalf.
Oh, that's awesome.
So I'm excited about that. So I can't say who or when exactly just yet, but it's a smaller label, but it is a label that has some uh, some clout in the blues world. So I'm excited about that. But I grew up playing all that old cool stuff, Allman Brothers, all the English blues bands, John Mayall, Foghat, a lot of that stuff, and big Clapton fan back in the day. So I've always sort of woven the blues into my act and into my recordings and it's just sort of through osmosis that stuff seeps in. But this new project, we kind of went in with the intention of making it a little more bluesy and push it in that direction. So Eric and I'll do 2 or 3 or 4 songs from that album.
Hmm.
We've got some kind of good folks playing on the record, but Eric and I have managed to somehow take an acoustic guitar and a mandolin and make that into a pretty bluesy. We did some of that last time we were there, and people responded to it. So, but it's we'll do some things that are we'll do a mix of covers. We'll do a lot of my stuff. We'll do some of Eric's stuff. He's an amazing mandolin player, as you know,
Right.
and his wife is gonna have a baby on the 15th of November. So we gotta get in and get out on these next few gigs so he can be home.
Right.
Yeah, it's an exciting time because I've never had a record released on an actual label. I've always self-released, which is kind of the way a lot of people do it nowadays. But
Right.
when growing up, you always want to have a record deal. So it looks like I've got one.
That's awesome. That's great. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, not to put you on the spot, but would you like to sing a little something this morning?
I probably this morning singing something is a little. I'm a little. My voice is. If I'd known we were going to do that, I'd have warmed up. It
Okay.
might be a little rough. So why don't we
Gotcha.
save that if you don't mind?
That's fine. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
if people want to, if people want to hear the music, it's at davidstarmusic.com, and I'm at David Starr Music on Facebook and Instagram, and there's on YouTube. You can go there and hear us doing some live stuff. And yeah, gosh, if I'd known you wanted me to sing, I'd have prepared.
Well,
I don't
that's
even have
okay.
I'm in a guitar store, but I don't have a guitar handy.
Well, I didn't mean to put you on the
I'm
spot,
sorry.
but I just thought I'd ask.
Oh, that's okay.
Well,
Sure.
folks will then. We still have some
I'll
tickets
save that.
available. They will definitely need to get on there. We're close to being sold out for the event, so if they want to hear the music in person or hear it live, they're going to have to get on there in the next day or so and get their tickets. So we'll just push them that direction.
I don't know about you all, but we have found people sometimes are very last minute these days about ticket buying, but
Absolutely.
they need to get in there and buy those tickets because at the last minute will be too late.
It definitely will be,
So,
and there won't be any sold at the door. So they definitely need to jump on there and get those as soon as possible because they're going pretty quickly, and we're very excited. And same thing, we're experiencing where people will kind of make last minute decisions, and oh yeah, I am available, so let me grab a ticket for that really quick. So I wouldn't wait another day or
Yeah,
more at the most, because like I said, we're right there at that point where the ticket sales are going to be closed. So we hope that a few more guests will jump on after this and grab those last tickets.
great. I'm excited.
Yeah, yeah. Anything else you'd like to share with our listeners before we wrap things up today? I know that you mentioned, and I mentioned at the opening. You over your career, you've played with a lot of different artists. We mentioned like John Oates and Jim Messina and some other folks. Are there Is there anything that you learned from those experiences, or how have those performers or those individuals, those artists influenced you and your music?
Well, one of the things I've learned over doing this since I was a pretty young person is if there's somebody if there's somebody that's doing it right or appears to be doing it right, just shut up and listen and pay attention to what they're doing. And I've really tried to absorb as much of that as I can. You know, opening shows for people is always fun. Eric and I opened a couple of years ago out here in Grand Junction, Colorado. We opened for America, and those guys were real pros. We had a great show. Opened, I don't know, it was 1,300 people in the audience. It felt great. Those are always fun.
Hmm.
Jim Messina, one of one of my one of my mentors, really, in an unexpected way over the last 10, 11 years, 12 years, has been my friend John Oates at Hall and Oates. And
Hmm.
John has been, when I say unexpected, we began playing together sort of through friends of friends and people that he knew and I knew, and we've written together. We've got a writing appointment here in the next couple of weeks when I'm down in Nashville again. He's been really good about sharing insight, advice, songwriting tips, and he's been a real proponent of our arts center, and has been out here he has a home in Aspen, just a couple hours away, so he's been out here to play a number of times, and he's kind of our adopted rock star. I mean, he, he's always good about being really straightforward. When we write together, a lot of times I'll take him a song that I think is almost finished. He'll go, "Nope, not there yet.
Yeah.
Let me have it for a day," and he always makes it better. And I've tried to notice how he makes it better. It may be a small change, but you're always writing. You want your audience to listen, and you want to draw them in. And so I've tried to learn from good songwriters about how to do that. And I've also just learned not to take any of this for granted, because we're lucky to get to do what we do. I'm extremely fortunate, and to get to play for people here or in England and Scotland, where we go every year, or in Bedford, it's just a privilege, and I don't take it for granted. Really, really enjoy it.
Well, we really appreciate you taking the time out of your touring schedule to come back and play for us. Like I said, we've so enjoyed having you over the last few years, and I'm really looking forward to seeing you again this weekend and hearing you play, and hoping that we'll be able to do some future performances and opportunities as well. And hopefully, I can come your all's direction, because I'd really love to come and visit your area and the Arts Center as well.
That's what I was about to say. I think you need a research visit.
Definitely, most
We can.
definitely.
I think if people in this arts community can share ideas and stuff. I mean, I just listening to what you were talking about, just how some of the things that are adjacent to this event you're putting on, sounds like ideas we could employ out here. We have a big wine and cider community out here in this part of the state. So it's not bourbon, but it's the other, and we
Right.
grow a lot of apples here and that
Hmm.
sort of thing.
Yep.
So
Yep.
anyway,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
We are already working on our ideas for the art of pairing for next year. So we may be going down that route, because we do have a lot of
cool.
wineries and cideries and craft breweries here in this area as well. So we may be taking it that direction also. So maybe we can get together and talk about that. And we can
Great.
encourage guests to make a trip out to Colorado to enjoy an event at your place and then come back and enjoy ours.
We'd love to have them. It's a
That'd be
beautiful
awesome.
part of the world, just
Yeah.
like where you live.
Yeah, that would be awesome. Well, I am going to start wrapping things up. David, I really appreciate you calling in this morning. I know it's a little earlier on your end, and appreciate you taking the time to visit with us prior to our event this weekend. And just want to wish you safe travels, and we look forward to seeing you really, really soon.
I will see you Saturday afternoon. We'll get set up, and we're going to have a great time.
Awesome. So, as I mentioned to our listeners, David's going to be here this Saturday for our annual fundraiser, The Art of Pairing Bourbon and Blues. There are still some tickets available. So, if you go to our website, you'd be able to purchase those in advance at bowercenter.org. And as a reminder, please check out all of our upcoming classes, additional performances that we'll finish up the year with, and our current exhibits are also available for viewing online, or you can come see those in person. So I want to thank David once again for joining me and remind everybody to check out our website for all of up-to-date information. And this has been